Hi, my petals. Today the pattern is this lovely cockatoo with his wild and crazy hair. It's a pretty simple little bird pattern. If you want to change the colors to be a different kind of bird, go for it. But yeah, he's even got little toes. This particular one is named Daniel. So let's get started. What we're going to need is, of course, some white yarn for the body, gray for his beak and feet, and then yellow for his super wonderful crazy hair. Safety eyes, scissors. I'm using a 3.5mm crochet hook and stuffing. Alright, so we are going to start with his body. We're working from the top down. So we're going to start with a magic circle and 6 single crochets. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then for round 2, we're going to increase in every stitch around and have a stitch marker to mark the start of the round. Okay, so increasing every stitch, that'll give us an end row count of 12. And of course, you can find the written pattern on my website at mudsyarn.com under free patterns, along with some other ones. Okay, and for round 3, we're going to single crochet and then increase and repeat that 6 times. And that'll give us the end row count of 18. And increase. For round 4, we're doing 2 single crochets and an increase. Again, repeated 6 times for end row count of 24 stitches. 2 and increase. And then for round 5, we're going to do 3 single crochets and increase 6 times. And that'll give us an end row count of 30. Okay, and then for rounds 6 through 10, we're going to single crochet around. So I'm going to do that, and I'll meet you at the end of row 10. Alright, it's coming to an end on round 10 here. So for round 11, we're going to single crochet 3 and then decrease. 1, 2, 3, and decrease. And of course, repeat that 6 times for an end row count of 24. 3 and decrease. Then we are going to pause for a second to put in his eyeballs. So those are going to go between row 7 and 8, about 8 stitches apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Doesn't really matter where on the head they are. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. That way they'll be more on the sides of his little birdie head. And then continuing down, we're going to single crochet 2 and decrease, repeated 6 times for an end row count of 18. Decrease, and then for row 13 we're going to start working on his body. So we're going to single crochet 2 and then increase, repeated of course 6 times for end row count of 24. Just doing a decrease row followed by an increase row will help us give him a little bit of a neck without him looking too ostrichy. And then on to round 14, we're going to single crochet 3 and increase 6 times for end row count of 30. Three and increase. And then for round 15, we're just going to single crochet around. Okay. And then for round 16, we're going to single crochet 4 and increase 6 times, of course. 4, and then it'll give us an end row count of 36. Okay, and then for rounds 17 and 18, we're going to single crochet around. And this will be his belly. Alright, looks like a little ghosty at this stage. Woo! Okay, for round 19, we're going to single crochet 4 and then decrease 6 times. And that'll give us an end row count of 30. Okay, it's for round 20. We're going to single crochet 3 and decrease 6 times for an end row count of 24. And decrease. Okay, now is a good time to begin stuffing. Little heart. And don't forget to stuff all the way to the head. Doesn't have to be super firm, and when you put his hair on, you'll end up latch hooking through the stitch rows. So don't overstuff, otherwise you'll just pull out a bunch of stuffing. And that's just silly. Okay. And then continuing down for row 21, we're going to single crochet 2. Okay. That little bit can wait. For round 21, we're going to single crochet 2 and then decrease 6 times for an end row count of 18. Then once the hole gets small enough that we're sure the stuffing's not going to come back out or cause a problem, we'll stuff his body. Okay, and then round 22, we're going to single crochet and decrease 6 times for an end row count of 12. Okay. I'm going to finish stuffing my little dude real quick. Okay, and then last row, decrease all the way around. So 6 times. And then we will finish off and sew him up. So slip stitch, chain 2, and pull through, snug that knot on down. And then one of the ways to sew the little end bit without having it pucker is to go back and forth through the front loops only. And then pull it tight. And, I mean, it does a little bit, but then you can stick it back through any stitch. Why not? And look at that. Much better. And I tend to weave it in and out of a few stitches so it stays secure. And we tie a little knot here. Stick it back in. And then cut off the extra, and there is his body. Up next are the wings. So for the wings, we are going to start with a magic circle and single crochet 6, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And for round 2, we will increase in every stitch around. And then for round 3, we're going to single crochet and increase 6 times. For an end row count of 18. Increase. Okay, and then rounds 4 to 7, we're going to single crochet around. So I'm going to do that, and I'll meet you right back. And there's round 7. So now we are going to work on the pointier second half of the wing. So what we're going to do is we're going to decrease, single crochet 5, decrease twice, so 1, 2, single crochet 5, 3, 4, 5, and then decrease again. So we're effectively putting the decreases just on what will be the edge of the wing, so that's how it'll get that shape. So then for round 9, same kind of deal. We're going to single crochet, or we're going to decrease, single crochet 3, decrease twice, 1 and 2, single crochet 3, and then decrease, and for round 10 we're going to decrease, single crochet just once, decrease twice, single crochet, and decrease. Now you can see how that's a little bit more pointed than the round bit at the top of the wing. So we're going to finish off. Cut a longer tail because we're going to use this to not only sew up the end, but also sew the wing to his body. So what's going to happen is like this. I'm going to thread your needle, not drop the needle, sew the end of the wing closed, and then when you fold it flat, it should have a little bit of a curve to it. And we're going to stick the needle in a semi-random stitch and poke it up somewhere near the top, usually between round 1 and 2, closer toward the side. And then you can wait to sew on all the parts at the end or just sew them as you go. I'm just going to sew them as I go so I don't lose them or have my cat steal them. And then you're just, excuse me, you're going to just kind of line them up, and then in the most chaotic way, you see my strings coming out of about right here. It's going to go into a stitch about right there. And I'm going to poke it out over about here and put it back through the wing here. And then just through that first layer of the wing, poke it through, and then kind of keeping the wing lined up how you want. Poke it through the body, have hands that work, poke it through the body, and then again, up, and then up through the first layer of the wing, through the body. And you can do this as many times as helps you feel that the wing is secure. I just kind of go around, so my stitches are roughly around here. I do find that having a bent needle helps with this. But it is manageable even without one. So you can kind of see the stitches, how it's all sewn on around there. And then you just poof it a little bit. And it'll keep that rounded dome style. And then we'll just weave it through a few stitches in the back. And tie it off. Just like that. And then you're going to do the same, make a second wing, sew it onto the other side. And when you sew it onto the other side, all you got to do is just make sure you poke the sewing thread out onto the side that you want the wing to be on. So I'll make a second wing and be back for his next bits. All right, so I have finished his other wing, so now we are going to work on his beak. So for the beak, we're going to start with gray. And in a magic circle, single crochet 6. In 6. And then we are just going to single crochet around for rounds 2 to 4. And 6 makes 4. And we're going to finish off, cut with a long tail for sewing. And then I am just going to stuff with this last little bit of yarn from the magic circle. And then we are going to sew this smack dab in the middle of his face. Okay, and boop. And then we'll stitch it back up through his beak since we don't want to have random gray threads in his body. But we can still, whoops, put the extra like that. And there he's got his little beak. Next up are his feet. So also in gray. His feet are a little difficult. So what we're going to do is first magic circle single crochet 6, 4, 5, and 6. And then we're going to slip stitch but in only the front loop. And then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then in the back of the chain, so you got your little V's. In the back of the chain where there's those bumps, you are going to slip stitch, skip the first one, and then slip stitch twice. And then slip stitch again in the next stitch at the base and the front loop. So there you have 1 toe. And again, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Slip stitch twice in the back of the chain. And then we're going to slip stitch 3. 1, 2, 3, still all in the front loops of that magic circle 6. Chain 3, 2 slip stitches back down the chain, and then slip stitch in that last stitch. And you can see how that gives us his 3 toes. Now for round 3, we're going to flip it over, and then in the back loops, so those ones that aren't worked from the magic circle, the back loops only of round 1, we're going to single crochet around. And so you'll mark that first single crochet as the start of the round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, And it can be hard to find that last stitch, but it's basically going to be parallel with where you started. And 6. So that's round 3, and then round 4, we're going to single crochet around, making sure that we start in that first stitch and not in one of his toes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then finish off with a long tail to sew to his body. And same deal, I'm just stuffing it with the last little bit of thread. Otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily stuff his ankles at all. They're pretty secure and short, so I don't really need any sort of bracing. But there you have one little foot. Alright, so we'll make the second foot. Go over it one more time. Magic circle with 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then in the front loop, only this whole round, we're going to slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch 2 in the back of those chains, slip stitch back to the base, chain 2, chain 3, slip stitch 2, and then slip stitch 3, chain 3, slip stitch 2 in that chain, and then slip stitch back 1 for the main foot, and there you have his little toes. And then again for round 3 in the back loops, those remaining back loops, we're going to single crochet around four, 5, and 6. And then for round 4, single crochet 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And then we are going to sew them to his body. I have made a bunch of these recently, but otherwise I would recommend getting some sort of posting needle. You can drive it up through the center of his foot and stick them to his body so you make sure that they match. But we are going to sew them on. Unfortunately, I have not figured out how to get them to stand. He does not stand on his own very well, regardless of foot placement. He's just a little too top heavy. But you want to make sure his 2 toes are out front, and then he's got the 1 toe in the back. And there's 1 foot. Through his leg, just like that. Alright, and then next up is his tail. Fantastically simple. We are going to chain 8 in white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then single crochet 7, starting in the 2nd chain from hook. Again, I like to use the back bumps, but that's just me. For this part, it doesn't matter too much. Then you're going to chain 1, turn, and then for rounds 2 to 7, we're just going to single crochet across, chain 1 and turn. Then when we get to the end here, instead of chaining 1, I'll chain 2, and then cut with a long tail to sew on his tail. So first I'm going to weave in this little end here. Then we'll sew this onto his back above his feet. I like to follow the stitches, which have a little bit of a curve to them on the back, so his tail ends up having a little bit of a taily curve to them. And just like that, he's got his tail. And next up is going to be his crazy, fun, wild hair. Whoops. So for his hair, what you're going to do is take your yellow. I'm going to put it in my yarn keeper so it doesn't run all over everywhere. You are going to want to cut 35 to 40 strips of about 5.5 inch long yarn. So what I'm going to do is I want his hair to be about that long, plus a little bit extra for the knot that ties it to his head. So what we're going to do is just going to wrap a bunch of yellow yarn around my fingers, knowing that the loose end is down here at the bottom. So then I'm going to cut it here. And I'm stick my finger or my scissors in here, make sure my fingers aren't in the way. And then just cut like that. So we have a bunch of strips of yarn. And then you're going to take one, fold it in half, and start giving him his iconic haircut. This is going to be a lark's head knot or like a latch hook style attachment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, gosh, this looks like where his hair should start. So I'm going to stick my hook under one stitch, pop it up underneath another one, put the yarn over top of it, pull it through, pull up a big loop, put the extra yarn over the hook, and then pull that through so that the bar of it is facing towards his face, which will help keep it up but back. Otherwise, he's going to have a whole bunch of emo hair. And we are going to do that all the way across. If you have a latch hook, this is that's much faster than doing it this way, one at a time. But either way, you're going to keep going all the way around. And he'll start to have it. And then once there's the first row, you're going to push it forward a little bit. And then do the same thing in the next row. And then pull it through. And then in the next row. And you'll just give him that nice mohawk style hair. Only a couple rows will do it. It gets a little hectic toward the magic ring. Try not to pull out your magic ring, of course. But with enough hair, it just stands up on its own. There's no starching or anything in this. It just does that. So carry on, do your latch hooking, and eventually you'll have a wonderful mohawked, crazy, party-ready cockatiel. This is going to take a while, so I recommend having a good tea and a nice TV show or, YouTube video running. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, leave a comment. Please like, subscribe, and check out my other patterns. Again, the written one for this or for any of them is on mudsyarn.com. Follow me on Instagram. If you make this guy, I would love to see him. Tag me at mudsyarn. But I'm going to slowly work on this as time goes by. Remember, you can always add more. It's kind of a pain to take out. It's just starting small and slowly working back and checking how cute he is every couple of rounds. He'll get there, even if he's balding. But I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.